I collapsed at work one day after years complaining, and sorry, Mr. Hayduck, there's a softball-sized tumor inside of your stomach. That's why you're in pain. That's why you can't eat. That's why you can't breathe, because you have a tumor. It's the size of a softball pushing on everything. Tumors out, surgeries out, and then my local cancer center didn't call me until August of 2022. Like, hey, we need an appointment. I go in, they're like, Mr. Hayduck, it's cancerous. We're sorry. You have 6 months. We misdiagnosed you, or you got misdiagnosed. You need to hop on treatment, and we hope you make it. The Lord gives me cancer, and it makes me fight to survive. I'm so grateful for the Lord to do this to me. So it's pretty wild that I prayed for this to happen my whole life and didn't even realize what was happening. On my 31st birthday, I was diagnosed with stage 4 GIST cancer. So GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. It is a rare type of cancer. It's kind of like a sarcoma, if I remember correctly. And of course, all cancers have different types of mutations. The type of mutations I have, there's no known treatment for it. So the fact that they put me on treatment in the first place with no cure, I find that funny now, but we'll get on to that topic. My main symptoms prior to my diagnosis, so then we'll get into the diagnosis, what I've been through. It all started back when I was like 26, 25. I had my gallbladder removed when I was 25 or 26, gallstones. And I now know you have gallstones or get gallstones from a lack of fat in the diet, healthy fats. Your bile will crystallize to give you stones. But back then, I didn't know that information. I was like, I just have a faulty gallbladder. Let's get it gone. And they removed it. Learned that the hard way. But I never got better after getting my gallbladder gone. Like, I still continued to being sick, felt, just weak. For years, continued getting worse, not getting better. I started seeing a naturopathic doctor about a year after my gallbladder surgery. And he's like, hey, you need to change your diet. Your diet's probably causing you issues. So I went and got allergy tested. And sure enough, we'll say 3/4 of what I was eating was, I had a reaction to. So instantly had to change my diet, and I felt a lot better overnight, changing my diet. I was probably 26 or 27 at that time of age, and things kind of mellowed out for a year or so. I wasn't gaining weight, I wasn't losing weight. I was just being able to eat and feel decent afterwards. And then we'll say around 28 or 29 years old, I started complaining to the doctors again. I was like, hey, I'm starting to not feel good again. I can't gain weight. I can't gain muscle. When I eat, even if I'm eating restrictive stuff, I'm still getting sick off and on. None of my doctors really believed me. They just told me, you're young, it's your job. You work. At the time, I was a tree serviceman, so climb trees, drag brush, anything physical basically with trees. So my body did go through, the ringer every day, getting physical work done. So that was my excuse. I was always told, well, you're young, you beat your body up with your job. There's nothing wrong with you. Your blood markers are fine. Well, they don't check. Most Western medicines, when they do blood work, they just check the basics. They don't go into depth to look at the true markers that I know about now. So yeah, they just kind of swept me under the rug. And it wasn't until I was 30 years old. I was at work one day. It was probably May. So that would have been 2021, give or take. Because my surgery was in 2022, so it was the year prior to surgery, I collapsed at work one day. And actually, the same year of surgery, I collapsed a few months before my surgery. My parents came and picked me up, took me to the hospital. I spent a couple of days in the ICU, and they went and rushed me in for a CT scan finally, after years complaining. And, sorry, Mr. Hayduck, there's a softball-sized tumor inside of your stomach. That's why you're in pain. That's why you can't eat. That's why you can't breathe, because, you have a tumor. It's the size of a softball pushing on everything. So that was my last day at work, was July 25th, 2022. I went in for a surgery on July 27th, 2022 to actually remove the tumor. Prior to the surgical tumor removal, we did 2 different endoscopies. Well, they'd go down the throat to get biopsies. The endoscopies came back as benign tumors, cancer-free, blah, blah, blah. So they did the surgery. Luckily, the surgeon was an angel. She cut extra meat, which It's never good losing extra stuff, but she cut a little extra just to be sure. Because, once you leave something contaminated, it makes it worse. I'm glad she cut extra because it came back as cancerous, after they actually did the true biopsy. So for me, that was a big mental overload situation, being told many a times, oh, it's a benign tumor, you're cancer free, let's go ahead and do surgery. And then after surgery, like, oh, sorry, it's cancerous, you need to hop on treatment because we poked the bear, we hope you make it. And what I've learned, I'm sure you could attest and other people can, is when you biopsy something, especially a cancerous tumor, once you open up that sac, it spills the beans, so to speak. So that's one of the worst things to do, as I've learned, is biopsy stuff prior to removing the whole tumor. Like if you want to biopsy it, it's fine. Pull the whole tumor first so you don't open up the sac inside of the human body and spread, the contaminants. So yeah, surgery was July 27th, 2022. I lost about a quarter to a third of my stomach and intestines. I don't know the whole percentage. I never got an answer from that. I spent 9 days in Seattle, Washington, in Swedish. Had to learn how to walk again because they cut from basically my left hip bone up to my rib cage. So it's like a 14-inch scar or 10-inch scar somewhere. And it's a good length. When I first learned how to walk, and for months, when I moved my left leg, I could feel it through my stomach, because that's where all the muscles and tendons and all that go. Being 31 and having to learn how to walk all over again was kind of odd. Tumors out, surgeries out. And then my local cancer center didn't call me until August of 2022. Like, hey, we need an appointment. And so I scheduled it for September, which happened to be my birthday. And I go in, they're like, Mr. Hayduck, it's cancerous. We're sorry. You have 6 months. We misdiagnosed you, or you got misdiagnosed. You need to hop on treatment and we hope you make it. So that was mentally that particular day, September 9th, 2022. Like, I don't even know how to put it into words to describe the initial feeling of what I felt when the doctor said that to me. But after I had my 5 or 10 minutes of grief, I mean, of course, anybody in the diagnosis stage can have grief. I had my mom with me, thankfully, at that appointment. We both bawled. But after I got my moments of grief out, I looked at my mom and I looked at the doctor. I was like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to live my life for me. The cancer could stay with me or it could fall behind, but it's not going to control me. And I've had that attitude since the very first day, that I'm going to live life the best I can for me and not living it for the cancer. You know what I mean? If you give any illness credit, it's going to try to win. So I hopped on treatment. They already knew that in-house radiation, in-house chemo wouldn't touch the type of cancer I deal with. So they put me on a targeted therapy. I think it's TKI therapy. It's called the sunitinib malate. I did that for 130 days. It aged me like overnight. I went from looking like 30s to 60, 70 in 130 days. My heart started having issues, palpitations, afibrillation, seizure activities. I've had a few heart attacks off and on throughout the last couple of years because of chemo. Those pills I took was causing kidney problems. Like my left kidney started shutting down. So I had 3 different ureteral stent surgeries from 2022 to 23. During the duration of chemo, I progressively got worse and worse. It got to the point I stopped driving even, and my parents were driving me because I couldn't. Neuropathy in my hands were bad. I couldn't feel the wheel. Plus, with the heart problems, I was like, I didn't want to wreck my truck and hurt somebody else. So my PET scan was January 31st, 2023. And I had the PET scan a week or 2 prior to that. And my PET scan under treatment times showed the cancer tripled in size, spread throughout the liver, and got worse under treatment. So I straight up asked my doctor, I'm like, Doc, why am I subjecting myself to this poison and dying quicker when I could just die naturally, slowly, and have a better quality of life and just go out naturally versus, being in pain, urinating blood? Like, it was bad. So my local oncologist at the time, he's no longer with me, as far as my doctor, he retired. he agreed. He's like, hey, if you want to go naturally, that's your choice. Go ahead and go natural. I understand that the treatment affected you bad, not good. So he agreed with me that I could quit, but everybody else was kind of upset that I quit treatment. I hopped on different diets. Instantly was plant-based, vegan-based. I got a gym membership. And of course, I hopped on vegan, plant-based because that's, what's talked about right now. Everybody needs to go vegan, plant-based, save the world. It's the best for you, least amount of inflammation. And it was kind of cheap, the pricing of stuff was pretty cheap. I initially felt pretty good the first, we'll say, month of being plant-based, but you also have to understand and consider I just got done with chemotherapy, so anything's going to feel better than chemotherapy. And I didn't realize that at the time. I was like, oh, plant-based, I feel good, And then we started getting blood work in, and my blood work wasn't getting any better. I'm like, oh, well, something needs to change then. And mind you, I got a gym membership 3 weeks after quitting treatment, chemo. I got February 27th is when I officially started the gym. I actually had to bring food with me to the gym. I'd eat before I went. I'd bring food during the workout so I could feel my workouts, because at that time, my metabolism or my mentalness, whatever you want to call it, I had to think like I had to eat all the time. Like I could not go without food because my body would shut down. I've done Mediterranean, of course, standard American diet most of my life. I went keto, I think that was June, July, and August of 2023. I felt amazing under keto. The cancer growth actually slowed down dramatically under keto. And then that got my gears turning in my brain. Well, what's the common factor of keto and plant-based? Carbs, low amount of carbohydrates. I think keto's 20 grams or under a day of carbohydrates, and plant-based, I mean, plants have carbohydrates, but still not like pasta or rice, you know what I mean? And so it was around June or July 2023 when I was still keto. A friend of mine sent me a video on YouTube of a guy named Jeff the Prosperous. Blessings on my journey. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. He was a stage 4 colon cancer warrior. They gave him like 30 days. He made it 30 months. Amazing individual. He's on treatment. He's doing a metabolic approach, carnivore, all this natural stuff, plus Western medicine. I'm like, what do I have to lose? Here I'm in the 31 years old thinking red meat causes cancer. Maybe that's why I have cancer, because I eat so much meat. I don't know. And here's this guy, got 10 years on me, looking amazing with one of the most aggressive types of cancer out there and thriving. I was like, well, what do I have to lose? So I hopped on the carnivore train September 1st, 2023, and I've been pure carnivore ever since. So we're 16 months into carnivore now. From a standpoint on how I feel in general, I've never felt better my entire life, even as a child. I always grew up having stomach problems, bowel movement problems. I used to actually have medication I used to take so I could go to the bathroom properly. I don't need that anymore. I've realized that a body requires certain nutritions. Our bodies don't run off of calories, they run off of chemicals and nutrition. Our bodies know the difference of good nutrition and bad nutrition. From the cancer standpoint, from my last screening, which was 4 months ago or 3 months ago, from my last screening till the screening I had in May of 2022, when they found out about the tumors in the first place, the tumors are the same size now as they were in 2022. I've been able to reverse all damages from chemotherapy, shrink tumors back to the initial size as of before poking the bear with biopsies and surgeries, minus the big one that's gone. They had to cut one of them out. I've learned a body that's excessively inflamed can't heal. And fuel choices, which is food, is one of the biggest things to cause inflammation besides our own mindset and stress levels. Back when I had my gallbladder removed, the two choices were either remove the gallbladder or get gallstones again. Nobody said anything about if I changed my diet to more fattier diet, the stones would never happen again. And what's wild to me now, it's not wild now because I've understood it, but learning it was a challenge, is people like, oh, without a gallbladder, you can't eat fatty foods. Stay away from deep fried stuff, stay away from fatty meats. You can't digest fat without a gallbladder. That is absolutely false. Don't hold me to it word for word about what body part, but I believe your lower intestines can produce bile as well. There's other pieces of your body that can help produce bile, which helps break down fat. So from a macro standpoint, the last time I checked my macros, which I don't check them anymore, carnivore base, you don't need to, you just eat for satiation. But the last time I checked them, I was at about 200 grams of protein a day, which I'm about 180 for body weight. So I'm a little bit high in protein. I try to go for a gram per pound, but I'm like 350 grams of fat per day. Like, so my fat ratio is almost 2-to-1 to protein, and I feel amazing. And I don't have a gallbladder. I mean, how'd I word this? To be blunt, in the beginning to the adaptation phase, yes, I had diarrhea. I'm sure anybody that's gone to the carnivore thing has gone through the number threes. But once you get used to it and get through the adaptation phase, your body will take charge and produce bile as it needs. And so here I am, 33 years old, 16 months into carnivore, no gallbladder, missing a quarter to a third of my stomach and intestines. And I'm eating over 300 something grams of fat per day, sometimes up to 400 grams of fat per day, and not getting sick, no diarrhea, nothing. It's like I could go to the fridge and grab a stick of butter and eat it, which is like 1,800 calories. I don't know how many grams of fat, and be fine. It's like, it just goes to show you that the misconception on, if you don't have a gallbladder, you got to stay away from fat. No, you just got to give your body time to build a tolerance to the fat amounts as you're eating. But the wildest standpoint for me is it seems like the more fat I eat, the more weight I lose. The less fat I eat, the weight loss stalls. And of course, weight loss isn't my goal. I'm already kind of a smaller guy as far as fatness goes. But it's wild to see if I have leaner meats, I start eating muscle tissue. If I have fattier meats, I'll burn fat, not the muscle tissue. It just goes to show you that the body knows what it needs for a fuel source. You just have to understand what your amount is, or my amount, because we're all individuals. So what your amount and my amount is going to be slightly different, because we all have our different mechanisms of how the body works. I was doing 3-month intervals with scans at the time. So every 3 months was a PET scan. I did 2 PET scans. Then I found out I'm highly allergic to the iodine they use. So we went to CT scans, but it's still every 3 months. Every 3 months with scans. And mind you, from my local cancer team to even the out-of-state cancer team, because I have a team over in Portland, Oregon, so it's like a 5-hour drive to get to them. And they're the GIST specialists. Like, they're the best in the West Coast. Lovely people, just close-minded, that's all. I've been told since day one that it doesn't matter what I do as Anthony Haydock with my lifestyle of food choices, that the cancer is smart enough it could turn on and turn off when it wants to. My lifestyle and my food choice will not control the cancer. So remember that. And then every 3 months I'm doing scans. And this is all up until carnivore based. And so I went to carnivore based September 1st, 2023. And then I had a new scan in December 23, September, 3 months, and no growth. Like, all the tumors just stopped growing, like cold turkey stopped growing. And my doctors told me, it's an error with imaging. There's no way your tumor stopped growing. It's an error. I'm like, because I'm honest, I told them, like, I'm carnivore based. This is going to stop the cancer growth rate. So I'm like, all right, we're 3 months into carnivore base. I did my first screening. Tumors stopped growing. Let's run it for another 3 months, see what happens. If I have 2 scans back to back that shows stableness or shrinkage, that can't be an error. There's no way it's an error. So flash forward to March or April of 24, when I did the newest screening. This is 6 months into carnivore now. It slowed some shrinkage. Some tumors were stable, some shrunk. So I, of course, questioned my doctor. I'm like, hey, I thought you said this was an error last time. This one here, it shows shrinkage. There's no way it's an error. My lifestyle and my food choices are helping my body control this illness I'm dealing with. And again, I was told, how do I word this? My local team agreed with me that, yes, your lifestyle and food can somewhat affect on how your cancer is, or the cancer is, but as a whole, everybody still, including the smarter ones over in Oregon, the specialists, told me that my lifestyle and food choices cannot control the cancer. There's no way it's that smart. It does what it wants. It grows when it wants. It'll stop when it wants. But at that point, I have 2 scans, one showing stable, one showing shrinkage. And then now they switch me to every 6 month for scanning versus every 3. So I questioned them again. This is just me poking the bear. I'm like, all right, doctor, you tell me that my lifestyle and food choices will not control the cancer at all. It just, no questions asked. The cancer is that smart. It could do what it wants, when it wants, how it wants. Why are you switching me from 3 months to 6 month intervals if the cancer is that smart? I feel threatened that you don't want to see me for an extra 3 months. I might die. And he couldn't answer that. I'm like, well, it's common sense. If my lifestyle and food just in 6 months' time shows shrinkage and tumors, and I just question your ability to, how do you word it, say, oh, your cancer is that smart, it can do what it wants when it wants. Why would you prolong my screenings to see if I get that much worse over a 6 month period versus a 3 months period? And I still to this date can't get an answer out of any of my doctors why I got switched to 6 month intervals, which I don't mind. I know I'm not getting worse, I'm getting better. The lesser intervals, is the less poison through my body, because every time you do an MRI, a CT, PET scan, it's toxins through your body. And that's what really irritates me too, because even doctors, at least all the ones I've had 11 oncologists in 2.5 years. They've all told me the correlation between sugar and cancer doesn't exist. And I've even asked them straight up, I was like, well, a PET scan imaging is sugar-based radioactive, iodine water, whatever it is. I don't know the terminology, but it's got sugar in it, And that is why when you do a PET scan and you get imaging, the tumors light up like a Christmas tree because the sugar goes to the tumors. It's basically feeding the tumors to get an image out of it. So I asked the doctors, like, so if lifestyle and food doesn't matter, why do you guys feed sugar to the patients to get an image out of it? And that's a common sense, point blank, I'd say middle school question. And I still can't get an answer out of the doctor. And that's what really irritates me as a whole. I love doctors. I love surgeons. I don't have a thing against anybody unless they have an ego or entitlement issues. It doesn't matter if you're a law enforcement, logger, doctor. If you don't have entitlement issues or an ego, we're fine. If you're saying your education makes you better than thou, no. And I barely made it through high school, and I'm alive because I've outsmarted 11 oncologists. And furthermore, 3 of the oncologists out of 11 that I've had have tried to put me on medication that they already know isn't going to touch the cancer. So why would you subject me to poisons that you already have proof it's not going to do anything, just to make money off me and watch me get sick? And I asked him that straight up, and I got to switch oncologists because we don't get along anymore. I'm 95% carnivore right now. Very seldom I'll eat something that's not within limitations, but when I do, I get sick, so it's not worth it. So like I said, Thanksgiving, I had some potatoes, some carrots, some vegetables, some green bean casserole, and I got sick for like 3 or 4 days afterwards. Christmas, I behaved. I didn't disobey anything diet-wise. I'm like, it's not worth it. And so that's why I said 95%. It's like, if I was 100% strict, I think I'd go insane. Just trying to force myself to be that strict. So if I'm strict for like 2 months or 3 months, or say a month and a half, and then I have a cookie or, an ice cream or a banana or something I'm not supposed to, whenever I eat something I'm not supposed to have, I get a reaction, a not good reaction. And then that reminds me, oh, don't do that again. And then I'll be strict for, a couple of months again. And then I'll slip. I'm like, oh, don't do that again. I need to get to the point where I just don't do it at all. But it's like, well, maybe now it's better, maybe my stomach's healed enough I could have it. And so my daily activities, let's see. Right now, I'm kind of in the middle of a gym split. I'm changing my time at the gym, but usually it's 6 days a week at the gym and 3 days a week at the sauna. Right now, since I'm changing my split, I'm like 4 or 5 days a week at the gym, 3 or 4 days at this pool. Just for wintertime, once wintertime is over, I'm going to go back to 6 days a week at the gym. It's just, wintertime is harder because there's not enough daylight all the time, so I got priorities other than the gym, I got chores, life, stuff like that. So It's usually Monday through Friday at the gym, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at the pool. The gym, I'm usually there for 2 hours a day, sometimes 3. It just depends on what I'm doing that day. And I'm not working out for those 3 solid hours either. I shower at the gym. I do red light therapy at the gym. So there's, an hour just between those two things. I do talk a little bit at the gym. It's my social hour. So I spend, like I said, 2-3 hours between exercise therapy, red light therapy, and talking. I intermittent fast every day, so I eat everything in an 8-hour window. I go 16 hours a day, no food. I shoot for 10,000 steps a day minimum. Very seldom I get 5,000. Like Sundays are my lazy days because of church. But I try to be active. A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest will depreciate or deteriorate. Growing up in my life, teenage years, early adult years, I'm being honest, I thought naturopathic doctors were quacks. But here we are, middle-aged adult life, 33 years old, and I think Western medicine as a whole is quack. I mean, I'm glad we have doctors. I'm glad we have surgeons. There's a time and a place for me. You get in a car crash, your arm's mangled. Yes, you need a surgeon, broken bone, whatever. The biggest fault I have found in American society with Western medicine is they overcomplicate it. I state that because I've had heart doctors, I've had urinary doctors, I've had multiple types of cancer doctors, regular oncologists, just specialists. I've gone through regular nutritionalists, cancer nutritionalists. At one point throughout this journey, I've had, 10, 11 different doctors at one time, like appointment after appointment, just to figure stuff out. And the worst part about all of it is nobody had proper answers for anything. Every oncologist doctor I've seen that's tried to prescribe me something, I asked them, have you taken this? Have you done this? And every oncologist says, no, I have not taken that. Why would I take that? I don't have cancer. Why would I subject myself to that poison? I go to my naturopathic doctor. Anything he prescribes me, I ask him, doctor, have you taken this? Would you take this? What's your thoughts on this? And everything my naturopathic doctor has put me on, he has tried himself. That's a win in my book, It's like, I wouldn't tell you to go do something unless I did it myself. So from a doctor standpoint, how can you even tell a patient to go do something if you don't know what it's like? Now, for a training example, you go into law enforcement with cops. You have to be tased before you get to run a taser. You have to be pepper sprayed before you are allowed to have pepper sprayed. You have to do all these different things before you're eligible to carry certain things because you have to know what it's like to go through the pain and misery. Doctors don't have that option. They should be forced to go through that stuff, in my opinion. I understand that now is you have to understand how the human body works. You have to understand how the human body needs what for fuel. And then once you understand the basics, then you could go down into the specialties of heart or urine or cancer or whatever. But you go to the average Western medicine doctor, they don't even have 24 hours of nutritional studying. Don't even have 24 hours of human biology. I have more studying in nutrition and biology as a cancer warrior than the doctors I see do, as a whole. Which that is why I'm still alive and why I'm thriving and surviving, is because I am not taking the whole package and shrinking it down to one corner. I'm looking at the whole package and trying to decipher where the package went wrong. And to compare that from a human standpoint to a vet standpoint, you take your dog or your cat or your horse to a vet, what is the absolute first thing they ask? Have you changed the animal's diet? And what did you change it to? Western medicine doesn't even ask that question. They want to promote the bad stuff in the first place to get you sick. And it goes back to entitlement or egos, in my mind, is because if you say you spend $250,000 to $500,000 on a program to learn to get your doctorate degrees, I don't know what it costs. I'm throwing out hypothetical numbers, but say you spend $250,000 or $500,000 on an education to get somewhere, to find out what you just went to school for and spent 5-10 years learning is false, or I wouldn't say necessarily false, but not the full truth. That's kind of a big pill to swallow. It's like a lump in the throat. Like, oh, I just wasted $500,000 or $250,000 in 5 and 10 years to learn all this stuff, and I just got told pieces of the puzzle versus the whole puzzle. That's why earlier I made the comment, I love doctors and surgeons. I just don't like the ones with egos, because I've actually met a few doctors recently. One of them which is my urinary doctor. He's a firm believer that my lifestyle and my food choices is what's keep me alive and thriving. And what's funny about that, this urinary doctor, love him to death. Yeah, he's just like me. He's a straight shooter, like tells you point blank to your face how it's gonna be. He wanted to remove one of my stents for me one time. I'm like, yeah, not a problem. We could do the stent surgery, pick the day, blah, blah, blah. And he tells me straight up, no food this many hours prior to, no substances prior to X amount of times, and I showed up with food in my system. Not a bunch, but enough, enough to keep me feeling decent. And he's like, I can't do the surgery. I'm like, yeah, you can. He's like, no, I can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. So we argued about it, and he refused my surgery because I had food in my system, which I understand now. But I was pissed at the moment that he refused me, and he kept telling me, he's like, well, why'd you eat? You had a surgery to do. Why would you subject yourself to eating and screwing up your surgery? I'm like, dude, I don't have the willpower not to eat. I have to eat. I literally wake up every couple hours to eat, even in the middle of the night. And he's like, that's all mental. It's mental. And he kept telling me it's just mental. Well, here I am now, understanding human body anatomy, proper nutrition. And I just did a 7-day fast. I went January 1st to January 7th, 168 hours, no food, just water and salt only. A couple supplements, like zinc and B vitamins. Your body needs those after day 4. So here we are, a year and a half later from that urinary doctor's appointment, or a year later from that urinary doctor appointment. I was to the point where I was having food every couple hours, and now I just went 7 days with no food. So he was right. It's all in my head. So when I first quit chemotherapy, of course, all my doctors minus one, was upset with me. The one doctor that wasn't upset was the one that agreed, hey, you're dying quicker on chemo than without it. Just go natural. But from a friend and family standpoint, of course, my mom and dad supported me stopping chemo treatment because they, one's living with me, or I was living with them, so they could see me decline every day. But from a friends and other family standpoint, and just Joe Blow standpoint, the moment they found out I quit chemo, a lot of people were upset with me. Not like pissed, but like, well, we don't want you dying. Why'd you quit chemo? And I still don't have the proper vocabulary how to word this properly. So I'll just be blunt like I always am. I've understood that people are upset at other people when they quit chemo because they don't understand anything about it. They think, oh, the misconception is if you have cancer, your only option is chemotherapy. Otherwise, it's game over. That is the biggest fraudulent lie spread across the world in today's generation, or in general, is chemo is the only way to cure cancer or beat cancer. And it's pretty hard in the beginning because, of course, I was mentally screwed up. Chemo had taken a toll on me. I've been through the ringer with everything. So through the journey quitting, I had to distance myself from quite a few people initially off the get-go. And right now in today's date, of course, I'm not distanced from anybody really, because I've learned to shrug off the negativity and just continue moving on. But I've lost some friends through this journey. I feel bad for them that they couldn't grow with me versus staying behind, but it is what it is. From a standpoint of treatment, again, I will never hop on Western treatment. I've already told that to all my friends and family. I'll take a bullet before I hop on Western treatment again, because I've just had so much mistrust with treatment. I've had so much pain and misery through treatment. That's not living life, waking up being grateful, thankful, and blessed versus waking up being in pain. That's two different ball games. But what's funny, or it's not funny, I mean, it's funny now, but at the time it was irritating. When I quit treatment, did all these different diets, a lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people supported me. It was like a 50-50. And when I first went carnivore based, we'll say 90% of people in my life thought I was ridiculous, like crazy. Like, you can't survive off of that. You're going to die. Red meat causes cancer. You need vegetables. You need fruit. You need all this stuff. And even like some of my childhood buddies, like diaper days, so like thought I was crazy and like, you're not going to make it. So now flash forward, I'm 16 months into carnivore. I'm not dead. I'm thriving, putting on muscle, looking better, aging backwards. What's the waterfall effect? The ripple effect. Now a lot of my friends are trying carnivore. Oh, he's not dead after a year of carnivore. He's not dead after a year and a half of carnivore. Now I'm going to try it. It's like, so again, I'm the gateway opener for all my friends and family. I'm the test pig, basically, the guinea pig. It's like the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, you can't force it to drink. I was that horse at one point in my life. I don't ever want to be that horse ever again. Like, I want to drink when I need to drink or being led to it. I don't want to drink on my own time, so to speak. But it's funny that as I talk to my friends and family and strangers and Joe Blows, they trusted me enough to be the guinea pig because my life, my choice. But now they see the results and they want to follow my footsteps, which is great. I mean, it sucks that I had to be the brave one. We could have done it all together. And that's my case, is if they were to join me on the journey when I first got it serious and started it, they'd be as far as along as I am, with feeling, looking, the whole 9 yards. It's better late than never, I say. It's basically day to day. The fact that, I do fasting, and like I said, I just did a 7-day fast at the beginning of the month. People think I'm crazy for that. Oh, you need food to survive. You're going to die without food, blah, blah, blah. And I don't mean this by no disrespect. I love everybody. But I told the coaches at the gym, because I go to the gym, I told the coaches, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do a 7-day fast. At the gym, they have a eVolt body scanner, so you can tell your body composition. And I talked. That's why I brought the whole thing up. I was like, hey, I want to do the 7-day fast. I want to scan my body before the fast. I want to scan it right after the fast so I can see what 7 days of no food does to the body. And then I'm going to do another scan in a couple of weeks to see what refeeding does. But every single coach, well, I take it back, 85% of the coaches at the gym thought I was ridiculous, thought I was crazy. Like, you just spent the last 2 years building your physique the way you've been. Why do you want to ruin it in 7 days? First of all, I'm not going to ruin it in 7 days. It takes more than 7 days to ruin your physique. But second of all, I put in the work to understand that when you're fat adapted and you have the right minerals in place, and I don't even know if it's fat adapted. It might just be if you have enough body fat in the first place. But I think Dr. Shapey says that 5% body fat a male has 100,000 calories of energy available. I was at 15% body fat when I started my 7-day fast. So that would be 300,000 calories of energy available, which, doing the math, 3,000 calories a day. I don't know how many days that would be. It'd be quite a few amount of days, I could survive from a fat standpoint, but I felt amazing. And so, like I said, all the coaches thought I was crazy, thought I was going to deplete, and little did they know, because, they didn't get trained to learn it. They got trained in one avenue versus, the whole spectrum. I'm bigger, stronger, and better than I was before my fast. I mean, yes, I lost 10 pounds during my fast. I lost 3% body fat. But after 2 days of refeeding, I already got my weight back, moving more weight than I ever used to in the gym again. It just goes to show you that autophagy, self-eating, of the body, fasting, it's cleans house bluntly, it gets rid of the damaged cells and you produce new healthy cells. And like in a vehicle, say you have an 8-cylinder vehicle, you have 7 good spark plugs, 1 bad spark plug, your vehicle's not going to run as good as it should. You replace that bad spark plug with a good one, you have proper connectivity and you have proper power again. But when you go into a fasted state, autophagy happens. It takes out those damaged spark plugs and put in healthy ones. You have power again. It's like right now, I'm in pretty good shape. You can't tell I'm sick, but I couldn't tell you how many times in the last couple of years of dealing with cancer, especially even looking horrible during treatment, I've been harassed and had cops called on me for parking in a handicap spot, even though I had a handicap pass. I mean, I don't do it anymore because I don't need it. But during treatment, I couldn't hardly walk. I was pissing blood. And I parked in a handicap spot because I had permission to. And I couldn't tell you 3 or 4 different times I've had local cops surround my truck, tell me to move, try to prosecute me for parking in the handicap spot because my truck's lifted and I'm a younger male. I'm like, so the fact I got to even explain myself, which is illegal, I shouldn't have to explain anything. I've had so much abuse. I've been kicked out of 2 different cancer groups as well for talking about my story. But it's like, here I am speaking of my journey. I'm not speaking of your journey, my mom's journey, anybody else's journey. I'm speaking of Anthony Haydock and the stuff I've been through, what has worked, what hasn't. And I've been through so much abuse. Like, I couldn't tell you the abuse I've been through. And I still sit here with a smile because all that abuse just gives me more power to push through to help other people. It goes back to in the conversation. I have thick skin for a reason, and God put me in this predicament for a reason. My saying in my life is I didn't have bad luck. I wouldn't have luck at all. But the cool part about that is it's been a blessing. You know, it's made me learn how to have thick skin. It's made me learn how to have broad shoulders at times. To be blunt, I don't know how spiritual you are with the Lord and everything. I'm now recently into, following Christ and believing in the spiritual powers. And to be honest, for years, most of my life, I prayed to the Lord, give me strength, give me wisdom, give me unloneliness. I don't know the proper terminology, but I've always been lonely my whole life. And what does that peckerhead do to me? The Lord gives me cancer, and it makes me fight to survive, gives me friends. I meet you, I meet other people, so I'm no longer lonely. I have an army of people on my side. I have the strength I never thought I've ever could have had. And I could talk about anything to anybody. I'm not bashful anymore. And how many lives I've been able to touch and help through this journey just because of the diagnosis I was given, I'm so grateful for the Lord to do this to me. Most of us don't believe in the first place, or, oh, give me strength. Well, most people are just like, I want big muscles for strength. Well, in order to get strength, you have to go through something challenging to get stronger. It's a fail point. So it's pretty wild that I prayed for this to happen my whole life and didn't even realize what was happening. I was put into this predicament to help others unknowingly, and then I've just happened to, throughout time, get the strength and the courage to continue to help others. I didn't realize I was helping others until one day, like, oh, you inspired me. I'm like, wait, what? I'm just trying to survive, But what I've realized too is strength in numbers. Nobody could do anything on their own, whether it's a job, a health issue, doesn't matter what it is. We need friends, we need family, we need support of some type, whether it's spiritual with the Lord. The moment you could make yourself somewhat vulnerable to others, it's actually, even though vulnerability is a scary thing, it's an uncomfortable thing. But once you learn how to do it and accept vulnerability, the weight lifted feeling is amazing. The moment I started going to church and expressing, that I need help holding this strength that I'm doing, I had a meltdown moment and it felt way better. It's like, oh, I could feel, the Lord and everybody in the church taking over some of this weight from me. Not many people get experience that all the time because they don't put themselves in a predicament or in a mental state to understand that. And to me, it also goes back to nutrition. If you have a poor diet and you have brain fog all the time and you aren't in tune with your body because your diet's got you just feeling so horrible, how are you ever supposed to connect within yourself or somebody else if you can't even connect with your body? My brain fog going to carnivore based has just gone cold turkey most of the time. Most of my little stutters and brain farts I have is from all the seizures I've had. But other than that, my memory is good, And again, from my experience and my context of, my situation, I'm blessed to have to go through this at 30, 31, 33 years old versus say 60 or 70 years old. And the reasons behind that is, for one, at 30, 31, 33 years old, I have less untraining to do, less brainwashing that I've gone through. But I also have, youth on my side, it's like I could try an avenue, and if I start declining, quit that avenue. Hopefully I bounce back and then start a new avenue again versus, if I'm 60 or 70, it's a little bit harder to experiment with stuff because my body can't bounce back as quick as it would at 30, 33, you know what I mean? But as part of it, I still can't believe this is my story and my predicament, Half the time I feel like I'm living in a dream and helping people doing it. It's like, who knew getting my cancer diagnosis, or hold on, who knew getting the cancer, it's not mine, words are powerful, I can't claim it, but who knew getting the cancer diagnosis was going to be the best thing in my life? But if I'm being honest, growing up throughout life, I only prayed during hard times, which is not the best situation. You should only, if you're at your lowest and that's the only time you're praying, it's kind of screwed up. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody if that's what you're doing, because I used to do that. But a person should pray when they feel like praying, whether it's good times or bad times. Like today, it's a great day. I should pray and tell the Lord I'm thankful to have such a great day. You can't just reach out to him or somebody during bad times, because if that's your only motive or agenda to reach out when you're struggling, you should be also reaching out when you're thankful for somebody too. I've suffered too much in my life. It's not fun. I don't want other people to do that shit that I've gone through. I mean, as you can tell, I'm not even trying to hide the fact I've been having some waterworks for the last 5 minutes off and on as I talk, but it's who I am. Growing up, I used to hide who I was. I didn't like to show my emotions growing up. And I've learned, if you make yourself vulnerable and just be truthful, people will like you. People will relate to you. Too many of us go through life fearing what you're going to think of me. Or, if I do this, what's the consequences from so-and-so? Just live your life and put the best foot forward and be honest, and things will work out how they're supposed to work out.